Good evening, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amata Balachandra. It's the weekend edition of Just the News. Here are your latest updates. PTI quoting sources said the government may soon allow a precaution dose of COVID-19 vaccine for those seeking to travel abroad for education, employment, sports, and for attending official or business commitments. Now, currently, healthcare and frontline workers and those are aged above the age of 60 are being administered precaution doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Remember, scheduled international flights will restart on Sunday after a gap of nearly 2 years. COVID-19 measures have also been eased. Now, PTI has reported, quoting sources, that the government may soon allow a precaution dose for people who are traveling abroad as well. Meanwhile, fuel prices have gone up yet again for the fourth time in just 1 week. This time again by 80 paise per litre. In the last 5 days, it's gone up by about 3.20 rupees per litre. In Delhi, petrol costs 98.61 rupees per litre. In Mumbai, petrol costs 113.35 rupees per litre. In Chennai, petrol is at 104.43 rupees per litre and diesel is at 94.47 rupees per litre. And in Kolkata, petrol costs 108.01 rupees per litre. In the meantime, there's also news coming in from Maharashtra, and Indian Express has reported this, and this is quite big because compressed natural gas in Maharashtra will become cheaper, with the state government today taking a decision to reduce value-added tax from 13.5% to 3% starting the 1st of April, and this is massive. The decision was taken by Deputy Chief Minister and Finance Minister Ajit Pawar. The huge reduction in CNG rates will benefit common people travelling, especially in taxis and auto rickshaws, which use CNG as fuel. Now, in Mumbai and the rest of Maharashtra, CNG prices will be reduced by 8 rupees per kg, which means in Mumbai it will decrease to 58 rupees per kg from 66 rupees per kg, while in the coastal Ratnagiri from 82.90 rupees per kg to 74.90 rupees per kg. Meanwhile, the Congress today announced the launch of a campaign called Mehngai Mukt Abhiyan, under which it will organize rallies and marches across the country starting the 31st of March, and it will go on till the 7th of April. Now, Congress General Secretary and Chief Spokesperson Randeep Surjewala has said, and I quote, "People of India have been betrayed, duped and deceived by Modi government. After keeping the price of petrol, diesel, gas cylinder, piped natural gas and CNG unchanged for 137 days, to secure the votes of people, last 1 week has been a nightmare for budget for every household," end quote. Now, the Delhi government today presented a 75,800 crore rupee Rozgar budget for 2022-23 with a major focus on job creation and markets to boost the economic growth and recover from the damages caused by COVID and lockdowns. Now, Mr. Sisodia said that the government aims to increase employment rate in Delhi from 33% to 45%. In the meantime, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said that they will study the bill that has been introduced in the parliament to unify the 3 municipal corporations, and if need arises, they will then challenge it in court. Also, in a case related to alleged hate speeches connected to the Northeast Delhi riots, the Delhi High Court on Friday said that a speech given during election time is different from one given during ordinary times, and sometimes things are said just to create a mahal or atmosphere without there being the intention. Now, the High Court said, and I quote, "In election speech, so many things are said by the politicians to politicians, and that is also a wrong thing. But I have to see the criminality of the act. If you're saying something with a smile, then there is no criminality. If you're saying something offensive, then definitely there is criminality." The court also added, "You have to check and balance, otherwise I think 1,000 FIRs may be lodged against all politicians during elections," end quote. Now, Justice Chandradhari Singh made the statement while reserving its verdict on a petition filed by Communist Party of India leaders Brinda Karat and K.M. Tiwari. They've challenged a trial court order that rejected their plea for registering their first information reports or FIRs against Bharatiya Janata Party leaders Anurag Thakur and Parvesh Verma for allegedly making hate speeches ahead of the 2020 Delhi riots. Meanwhile, the WHO and the Government of India have signed an agreement to establish a WHO Global Centre for Traditional Medicine at Jamnagar in Gujarat. The centre is supported by a $250 million investment from the Indian government. Now, the new centre will focus on 4 main strategic areas: evidence and learning, data and analytics, sustainability and equity, and innovation and technology. Also, the UGC or University Grants Commission and All India Council for Technical Education have warned Indian students and their parents, basically cautioned them to not take admission for professional courses in China. Now, coincidentally, this comes amid the backdrop of Chinese Foreign Minister's visit to India. The UGC said, and I quote, "A few universities in China have started issuing notice for admission to various degree programs for the current and upcoming academic years. On the other hand, China has imposed strict travel restrictions in the wake of COVID and has suspended all visas since November 2020. In view of the above, students are advised to exercise due diligence in choosing where to pursue higher education to avoid further problems in employment or higher studies." End quote. Also, the news: the Supreme Court refused to entertain an appeal challenging an Allahabad High Court order which rejected a challenge to the constitutional validity of the PM Cares Fund. Now, the bench asked the petitioner to approach the High Court after the counsel appearing for him said the High Court had not dealt with all the points raised in the petition. Now, the bench said that the petitioner could approach the top court again in case of grievance after High Court decides the matter. Also in the news, Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot has asked Chhatisgarh to fast-track approvals for coal block that was to supply coal for its power plants. Now, Mr. Gehlot has said that Rajasthan may suffer a blackout if its power plants don't get coal supply. The Union Ministers of Environment and Coal have granted their approvals for the supply of coal to Rajasthan from the Parsa coal block in the second phase. However, the proposal is pending with the Chhatisgarh government. On to our other big story now. It's day 31 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. US President Joe Biden today met in Poland's Warsaw with Ukraine's foreign and defense ministers, and it was the first face-to-face talks with top Kyiv officials since Russia's invasion in Ukraine. Mr. Biden said that he thinks Russian leader Vladimir Putin has been surprised to find that he hasn't been able to divide NATO allies in their reaction to his invasion of Ukraine. He said, and I quote, "I just think it's so important that we, Poland and the United States, keep in lockstep how we're proceeding," end quote. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky has pushed for further talks with Russia as Moscow signaled it was scaling back its ambitions to focus on territory claimed by Russian-backed separatists in the east. Now, in the meantime, Ukraine's president has also called on energy-producing countries to increase output so that Russia cannot use its oil and gas wealth to blackmail other nations. Also, Ukraine has now claimed that Russian forces have taken control of a town where workers at the defunct Chernobyl nuclear plant live. Now, on Friday, the UN's nuclear watchdog had warned that fighting in the town was stopping workers from traveling to and from the plant, which still houses several nuclear waste containment facilities. Also, there's a new curfew in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. The curfew has been extended from Saturday to Monday. Residents can go out only if the sirens are off. Public transport, shops, pharmacies and petrol pumps will be closed. There's also information on the casualties in Ukraine. According to Ukraine's Office of Prosecutor General, 136 children have been killed so far and 199 have been wounded. And in some glimmer of hope, Ukraine's deputy prime minister said that agreement had been reached on the establishment of 10 humanitarian corridors on Saturday to evacuate civilians from frontline hotspots in Ukrainian towns and cities. Speaking on national television, she said civilians trying to leave the besieged southern port of Mariupol would have to leave in private cars as Russian forces were not letting buses through their checkpoints around the southern port city. In the meantime, and this is according to France 24, which is reported that French president has said that France, Greece and Turkey are trying to organize an evacuation of civilians from the besieged port city of Mariupol. Macron says that he will discuss this with Putin and Zelensky, even as Ukrainian president warns the humanitarian situation is worsening in Mariupol. Also, the WHO has said that there have been more than 70 separate attacks on hospitals, ambulances and doctors in Ukraine, with the number increasing every single day. Now, it's said that targeting of healthcare facilities has become part of the strategy and tactics of modern warfare. Now, the Russian troops have attacked a children's hospital, asylum, among others, during the invasion that's now lasted for more than a month. Meanwhile, according to Interfax news agency, Russian president on Friday formally approved a law which says that people found guilty of spreading fake news about the work of officials abroad can be sentenced to up to 15 years in jail. Now, the penalties are similar to those allowed under a law adopted earlier this month, which aims to punish those who spread false information about the Russian armed forces. Meanwhile, Russia has said that the first phase of the war is over and it will now focus on the complete liberation of the eastern Ukrainian Donbas region, an announcement that is being seen as a possible change of strategy after the invasion faltered. Now, the head of General Staff's Main Operations Administration said, and I quote, "The combat capabilities of the Ukrainian armed forces have been sustainably reduced, which allows us to concentrate our main efforts on achieving the main goal, the liberation of Donbas," end quote. Now, Ukraine's president has said that powerful blows to Russia have slowed its momentum, claiming that 16,000 Russian troops have been killed so far. Now, on the contrary, the Russian Defense Ministry has given an update on its military casualties for only the second time since its military assault began, claiming that 1,351 of its soldiers have been killed and 3,825 of them wounded. Also, the new Spotify technology SA has said on Friday that it will suspend its streaming service in Russia in response to the country's new media law. Now, the platform had earlier suspended operations indefinitely, citing what it described as Moscow's unprovoked attack on Ukraine. Now, Russia's new legislation makes it illegal to report any event that would discredit the Russian military. Also in the news now, this coming in from Afghanistan, the US has cancelled meetings with the Taliban in Qatar in response to the group's order to shut girls' secondary schools in Afghanistan until further notice. Now, a State Department spokesperson said on Friday, and I quote, "On Tuesday, we joined millions of Afghan families in expressing our deep disappointment with the Taliban's decision to not allow women and girls to return to secondary school. We've cancelled some of our engagements, including planned meetings in Doha, and made clear that we see this decision as a potential turning point in our engagement," end quote. Let's now take a look at environment news. According to scientists, this is a Reuters report which says an East Antarctica ice shelf disintegrated this month following a period of extreme heat in the region. Now, satellite images show the 1,200 square kilometer Conger ice shelf collapsed completely on and around the 15th of March. Now, this is worrying as ice shelves that are permanently floating sheets of ice attached to land take thousands of years, first of all, to form and act like leaves holding back snow and ice that would otherwise flow into the ocean, causing seas to rise. Moving on to sports news, this is also good news for the day. Olympic medalist PV Sindhu and HS Prannoy entered the Swiss Open badminton tournament semifinals in their respective women's and men's singles events. Now, PV Sindhu defeated her Canadian counterpart and will now face a Thailand counterpart. In the meantime, HS Prannoy will now face his Indonesian counterpart. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good evening.